Stop whatever you are doing, because what you are about to hear is not speculation, not another geopolitical theory video, and certainly not the kind of news that mainstream defense analysts are willing to discuss on record. Tonight, the entire architecture of NATO air superiority, the foundation upon which 75 years of Western military dominance has been constructed, has been rendered obsolete by a single weapons transfer that every intelligence agency in Washington knew was coming, but could do absolutely nothing to prevent. Iran has just received operational deployment packages for Russia's S-500 Prometheus air defense system, the most sophisticated surface-to-air weapons architecture ever fielded in human history, a system specifically engineered to detect, track, and destroy every category of stealth aircraft currently operational in the American and NATO inventory. The number of S-500 batteries now confirmed on Iranian soil, verified through satellite imagery, cross-referenced with signals intelligence intercepts and human intelligence reporting from multiple independent sources, represents the largest single transfer of advanced air defense technology to a regional power in the entire post-Cold War era. This is not a defensive gesture. This is not a deterrent acquisition. This is the permanent closure of Iranian airspace to American and Israeli stealth penetration, the complete neutralization of the F-35 as a viable strike platform in the Middle Eastern theater, and the beginning of a strategic realignment so profound that NATO command structures are at this moment conducting emergency threat reassessments across every operational domain. If this channel has been delivering the kind of analysis that cuts through official narratives and reveals what is actually happening at the sharp edge of global power competition, this is the moment to ensure you never miss an update. Subscribe to this channel, activate the notification bell, and share this analysis with everyone in your network who understands that the world changed tonight in ways that will reshape military planning for the next generation. The S-500 Prometheus system represents the culmination of 3 decades of Russian air defense development, specifically designed to counter the stealth technologies that have given American air power its presumed invincibility since the 1991 Gulf War. Unlike the S-400 system that has already proliferated to Turkey, China, and India, the S-500 operates across multiple radar frequency bands simultaneously, employing VHF early warning radars that can detect stealth aircraft at ranges exceeding 400 kilometers, X-band engagement radars that provide fire control quality tracking, and millimeter wave terminal guidance systems that enable intercept probabilities above 90% against maneuvering targets. The system's 77 N6 interceptor missiles reach altitudes of 200 kilometers and velocities exceeding Mach 7, providing genuine anti-satellite capability alongside anti-aircraft functionality. Each S-500 battery includes command posts hardened against electromagnetic pulse, mobile radar arrays deployable within 12 minutes, and vertical launch systems carrying 40 interceptors with automatic reload capability. This is not a defensive system designed to protect fixed infrastructure. This is an offensive counter-air architecture designed to establish absolute airspace denial across a 400-kilometer radius from each deployment location. Iran has received a minimum of 12 complete S-500 batteries, according to multiple intelligence assessments, though the actual number may exceed 15 based on the volume of cargo aircraft movements tracked between Russia's Kapistan Yar test range and Iranian military installations over the past 14 days. These batteries are being deployed in a carefully calculated pattern that creates overlapping engagement zones covering every approach corridor to Iran's nuclear facilities, ballistic missile production centers, and strategic command locations. The deployment geometry establishes 400-kilometer no-fly zones extending from the Zagros Mountains to the Persian Gulf Coast, from the Caspian littoral to the Iraq-Iran border. Every airbase in Israel, every carrier strike group operating in the Arabian Sea and Mediterranean, every NATO air installation from Turkey to Diego Garcia now operates within range of an air defense system that can detect their stealth aircraft and engage them with intercept probabilities that render offensive air operations mathematically suicidal. The technical sophistication that makes S-500 uniquely threatening to Western stealth platforms centers on its multispectral radar architecture. American stealth technology, embodied in the F-35 Lightning II, F-22 Raptor, and B-2 Spirit, achieves low observability through shaping that deflects X-band fire control radar energy away from the transmitter and through radar-absorbent materials that attenuate reflected signals. signals. These technologies were optimized against the X-band engagement radars that dominated air defense systems in the 1980s and 1990s. The S-500 employs VHF early warning radars operating at wavelengths between 1 and 10 meters, wavelengths that are physically too large to be effectively deflected by the angular shaping of stealth aircraft. When VHF radar energy encounters an F-35, the aircraft's carefully designed angles and edges become irrelevant because the wavelength is comparable to the aircraft's dimensions. The radar return is substantial enough for detection and initial tracking, even though it lacks the resolution for weapon guidance. This is where S-500's integrated architecture becomes devastating. The VHF radars detect stealth aircraft at extended ranges and cue the X-band engagement radars to focus their scanning on specific sectors. Once the X-band radars acquire the target, they hand off to millimeter wave guidance systems on the interceptor missiles themselves, which home on the infrared and radar signatures that no stealth technology can fully eliminate at close range. The system creates a multi-layered tracking solution that negates the fundamental principles underlying Western stealth design. An F-35 that would be invisible to legacy S-300 systems becomes a trackable target for S-500 from the moment it crosses the radar horizon. The stealth advantage that cost American taxpayers $1.7 trillion to develop has been engineered into irrelevance by a Russian system that costs roughly 1/10 as much per battery. The operational implications of this technological reality are catastrophic for NATO air campaign planning. Every offensive air operation conducted since Operation Desert Storm has depended on an initial phase where stealth aircraft penetrate integrated air defenses, destroy radar sites and command nodes, and create corridors through which conventional fourth-generation fighters can operate. This suppression of enemy air defenses phase has been the foundation of American air power employment for 3 decades. Against S-500 coverage, this operational concept collapses completely. Stealth aircraft cannot suppress systems that can detect and engage them before they reach their launch points. The F-35s that Israel and NATO allies have purchased specifically for their ability to strike defended targets now face air defense systems that can engage them at ranges where their weapons cannot reach the radar sites they need to destroy. The entire operational sequence that has enabled Western air dominance requires stealth penetration as its first step. That first step is no longer possible against S-500 defended airspace. The mathematical realities of attempting air operations against this architecture are unforgiving. Each S-500 battery can engage up to 10 targets simultaneously and track hundreds of targets across its surveillance volume. The interceptor inventory of 40 missiles per battery with reload capability means sustained salvo engagements against multiple raid packages. The system's shoot-look-shoot doctrine allows it to assess intercept success and immediately re-engage targets that survive the first salvo. Against a stealth penetration package of 8 F-35s approaching an S-500 battery, the system begins engagement at 250 kilometers range, launches 2 missiles per aircraft at maximum range, assesses results, and re-engages survivors at 150 kilometers with additional salvos. The F-35s must survive multiple intercept attempts while crossing 200 kilometers of defended airspace before reaching weapon release ranges against targets the S-500 battery is protecting. The intercept probability mathematics, with 90% success rates per engagement and multiple engagement opportunities, create survival probabilities for the attacking aircraft measured in single digits. Israel's entire air campaign strategy against Iran's nuclear program has been predicated on F-35I Adir stealth fighters penetrating Iranian airspace, striking enrichment facilities and missile production centers, and aggressing before Iranian air defenses could respond effectively. This operational concept is now completely non-viable. The F-35Is that represent Israel's most sophisticated and expensive strike capability cannot penetrate S-500 coverage zones without accepting attrition rates that would destroy Israel's air combat capability in a single mission. Israel maintains approximately 36 operational F-35Is. A single strike package against defended Iranian nuclear facilities would require committing 12 to 16 aircraft to achieve target damage probabilities justifying the operational risk. Against S-500 coverage, that strike package faces realistic loss probabilities exceeding 75%. Israel would trade its entire F-35 fleet for strikes against targets that Iran could reconstitute within months, while Israel would require years to reconstitute lost aircraft and pilots. The strategic paralysis this creates for Israeli decision-makers cannot be overstated. Every military option Israel has developed for preventing Iranian nuclear weapons acquisition depended fundamentally on maintaining air superiority through stealth penetration. The arrival of S-500 systems removes that option from consideration. Israel now confronts an adversary that can advance its nuclear program behind an air defense shield that Israeli military capabilities cannot penetrate without accepting losses that would be strategically catastrophic. The choices facing Israeli leadership have been reduced to accepting Iranian nuclear weapons development or initiating conflict through means other than airstrikes, means that carry escalation risks that could engulf the entire region in comprehensive war. The American strategic position is equally compromised. Every carrier strike group deployed to the Middle East includes F-35C stealth fighters specifically intended to provide penetrating strike capability against defended targets. These aircraft are now unable to perform their primary mission against S-500 defended Iranian territory. The broader implications extend across the entire American forward deployment posture. The United States maintains air bases in Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Diego Garcia, specifically to project air power into the Middle East and South Asia. Those bases are now within S-500 engagement ranges from Iranian territory. American stealth aircraft operating from these installations cannot conduct penetrating strikes against Iran and face engagement risks even during routine patrol operations near Iranian airspace. NATO's air power architecture for its eastern flank faces identical paralysis. The alliance has invested hundreds of billions of dollars in F-35 acquisitions for member states specifically to maintain the capability to conduct offensive air operations against defended targets. Russia's willingness to transfer S-500 technology to Iran demonstrates that this system will be available to any state willing to align with Moscow's strategic interests. Belarus, Syria, and potentially Serbia could receive S-500 batteries in the near future, creating air defense bubbles across Eastern Europe and the Middle East that render NATO stealth aircraft ineffective in their primary mission. The alliance's entire operational concept for air superiority has been built around technology that is being systematically countered by Russian air defense developments. If you recognize that this analysis is providing strategic assessments that official defense commentary will not acknowledge publicly, subscribe to this channel now to ensure you receive every update as this crisis develops. The implications we are examining tonight will reshape military planning across every alliance structure and every theater of potential conflict. The global strategic consequences extend far beyond the immediate Middle Eastern theater. China is watching this transfer with acute interest, recognizing that S-500 technology provides a pathway to neutralizing American stealth aircraft across the Pacific theater. Beijing has already received S-400 systems and will undoubtedly pursue S-500 acquisitions or indigenous development programs based on Russian technology transfer. The stealth aircraft that American war planners have positioned as the foundation of their Taiwan contingency operations could face the same engagement mathematics that have just paralyzed Israeli and NATO operations against Iran. The entire American defense investment in stealth technology was predicated on maintaining a decisive technological advantage that adversaries could not effectively counter. That advantage is evaporating in real time as Russian air defense technology proliferates to every state, challenging American hegemony. European NATO members are conducting emergency strategic assessments tonight, recognizing that their F-35 purchases may have been obsolete before the first aircraft were delivered. Poland, which has ordered 32 F-35As, Norway with 52 aircraft on order, and the Netherlands with 52 aircraft have collectively invested over $20 billion in stealth fighters that can no longer perform their intended missions against pure air defense systems. These nations purchased F-35s specifically because American defense officials assured them that stealth technology provided decisive advantages that would remain relevant for decades. That assurance has proven catastrophically incorrect. The European members of NATO must now either accept that their most expensive military acquisitions are strategically irrelevant or demand that the United States provide technological solutions that can restore stealth effectiveness against advanced Russian air defenses. The Middle Eastern power balance has shifted permanently. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other Gulf monarchies that have relied on American security guarantees and advanced weapons sales to maintain regional influence now recognize that American air power cannot provide the protection that has been promised. Iran, defended by air defense systems that American stealth aircraft cannot penetrate, has achieved strategic parity with the Gulf states regardless of the sophisticated fighter aircraft that Saudi Arabia and the UAE operate. This realization will drive accelerated diplomatic hedging as Gulf states seek accommodation with Tehran rather than continuing to rely on American military assurances that have been rendered empty by technological reality. Turkey's position within NATO becomes increasingly untenable as Ankara recognizes that its S-400 systems, controversial within the alliance, represent prudent strategic hedging rather than alliance betrayal. Turkey was expelled from the F-35 program, specifically because it purchased Russian air defense systems. That decision, framed as punishment for Turkish alignment with Moscow, now appears strategically foolish as the F-35s that Turkey was denied prove unable to operate against the very air defense systems Turkey acquired. Ankara's defense planning looks increasingly vindicated, while NATO's technology-centric approach to alliance cohesion appears fundamentally misconceived. Russia has demonstrated through this transfer that it possesses technological capabilities that can neutralize the most expensive and sophisticated weapon systems in the American arsenal, and that it is willing to proliferate these capabilities to any state challenging Western hegemony. This willingness to transfer cutting-edge military technology represents a fundamental shift in Russian strategic export policy. Previously, Moscow carefully controlled its most advanced systems, providing downgraded export variants even to close partners. The transfer of genuine S-500 capabilities to Iran signals that Russia now prioritizes building a coalition of states with shared interests in challenging American power over protecting its technological advantages through export restrictions. China is learning critical lessons from this sequence. Beijing recognizes that technological proliferation to states challenging American hegemony serves Chinese strategic interests by forcing Washington to confront multiple peer competitors simultaneously, rather than focusing resources on Indo-Pacific contingencies. Chinese defense planners will accelerate their own indigenous air defense development programs and may pursue technology-sharing arrangements with Russia that provide access to S-500 capabilities or the underlying technologies enabling its performance. The technological coalition forming between Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea represents a fundamental challenge to American technological superiority across every military domain. The economic implications of this strategic shift are devastating for American defense contractors. Lockheed Martin has secured F-35 orders worth hundreds of billions of dollars from the United States and allied nations based on representations that stealth technology provides decisive advantages, justifying extraordinary costs. Those representations are now demonstrably false. Foreign nations that have purchased or ordered F-35s face the reality that their most expensive military acquisitions may be strategically worthless against peer adversaries. Future export sales will be severely compromised as nations recognize that American assurances about technological superiority cannot be trusted. The entire American defense export model, which depends on convincing allied nations that American weapons systems are qualitatively superior to alternatives, collapses when the flagship product is rendered obsolete by cheaper Russian systems. This moment represents the definitive end of the post-Cold War era, where American technological superiority was assumed and unquestioned. The stealth revolution that reshaped air warfare in the 1990s has been countered by air defense developments that restore the lethality of the ground-based air defense systems that stealth was designed to defeat. The billions of dollars and decades of development invested in creating undetectable aircraft have been negated by radar technologies that make detection achievable at affordable costs. The technological advantage that justified American confidence in military primacy has evaporated, and with it, the strategic assumptions that have guided American foreign policy for 3 decades. NATO is in genuine crisis tonight, not because of political divisions or burden-sharing disputes, but because the fundamental technological foundation foundations of alliance military strategy have been invalidated. The alliance built its collective defense posture around American stealth aircraft, providing capabilities that no adversary could match. That assumption is now indefensible. The alliance must either develop entirely new operational concepts that do not depend on stealth penetration, or accept that its ability to conduct offensive air operations against peer adversaries no longer exists. Neither option is palatable, and neither can be implemented quickly enough to restore the strategic confidence that has been shattered by Iran's acquisition of S-500 systems. Subscribe to this channel because in a world this dangerous, analysis this sharp is not optional. It is necessary for understanding what is actually happening as the global order transforms before our eyes. The world has changed tonight in ways that defense establishments are only beginning to comprehend. The stealth technology that was supposed to ensure American air dominance for generations has been rendered obsolete by Russian air defense systems now proliferating to every state willing to challenge Western hegemony. NATO confronts the reality that its most expensive weapon systems cannot perform their intended missions against peer air defenses. Israel faces strategic paralysis as the military options it developed for preventing Iranian nuclear weapons acquisition have been eliminated by air defense technologies it cannot overcome. The United States must acknowledge that technological superiority alone cannot sustain global hegemony when adversaries can develop effective countermeasures at fractions of the cost. This is not a temporary setback that can be overcome through incremental improvements or tactical adjustments. This is a fundamental transformation of military technological balance that will reshape strategic calculations across every theater and every potential conflict. The age of uncontested American air superiority is over, ended not through battlefield defeat, but through technological obsolescence delivered by adversaries who refuse to accept permanent strategic inferiority. What comes next will define whether the United States can adapt to multipolarity or whether it will cling to unipolarity until strategic reality forces catastrophic reckonings. Tonight, we are witnessing the beginning of that reckoning, and the implications will echo across generations.